Hello and welcome, everybody. Welcome to what we call Common Censored. I'm joined by the always amazing Eleanor Goldfield.
There's a spinning globe behind my head.
I know. Now we're in a real studio. Oh, kind of real studio. Hello, everyone. Thanks for being there. Click thumbs up and let's do it. In a minute, we're going to get to a lot of things, but we're going to get to the revealed story of the utterly spectacularly botched SEAL Team 6 mission into North Korea in 2019 that Donald Trump apparently personally approved and could have led to nuclear war and killed us all, but luckily only killed a few innocent civilians and achieved nothing. We'll get to that in a second.
Is there a SEAL Team 1 through 5?
Yeah, they are fucking losers.
Or is it kind of like
it's a fair question.
The error 404, where it's like it's not clear if you had 403 other errors that you just jumped.
Yeah,
I just don't understand how that works. But that might be a question for another time.
You do not want to know what went on with the first 403 errors. They were not pretty. Okay, but before I get to that story, I want to play a quick clip of Nelson Mandela's grandson, who has joined or is on the flotilla to Gaza right now. Of course it's not playing the sound because Instagram can go flyingly. Okay, could you get to the part where he talks, please?
Our mission is simple. We are bringing humanitarian aid to Gaza and to end the 18-year blockade and the siege of Gaza.
Yeah, I do recall him saying, which is pretty powerful, that Palestinians face a worse apartheid than South Africa, which is saying something.
Oh, wait, he talks again. Here we go.
Come back with one conclusion, that the Palestinians are experiencing a far worse form of apartheid than we ever experienced. This last 2 years, what you have been witnessing is a testament to that.
Little advice how to do it. Don't make the background music louder than the person. But yes, important stuff.
So bitter.
I'm very critical of media.
Sheesh.
It's called media literacy, okay?
Is it?
And that's what it is.
I think it's called media bitching. But
listen, I thought we almost called this show media bitching. Why are you not joining me in this? Yes, the Gaza flotilla continues. They're out at sea. Apparently, this time they're trying to anchor in international waters rather than dock at ports to avoid various countries stopping them. And we'll see what Israel does. But Israel's already been circling them with drones. And yeah, it's lots of ships. I mean, I've seen over 50, but I don't know if that number varies or what. But anyway. Okay, let's get to this story of all anyone's talking about is RFK Jr. Screeching and yelling in Congress. But this should be a pretty major story. And I know it was on the cover of the New York Times, but that doesn't mean it's getting enough coverage that Trump and SEAL Team 6 almost ended us in, nuclear war in 2019. And you don't even hear about it. This has just come out. And I'll also show you where the New York Times does a bit of propaganda in the way they highlight these things.
Because it's like, it's one thing for it to be the cover of the New York Times, because a lot of things make the cover, like when, the US started bombing Baghdad in 2003, but was it framed in a way that shows how remarkably belligerent the US is? No.
Well, and that's the thing with this article. It's bringing you a lot of the actual facts. Some of it is designed to be what's propaganda for military? Opaganda.
I was just going to say military US news.
A military op. This is opaganda to make it sound really awesome and like something fun that you do. Oh my God, I'd love to be SEAL Team 6 and kill those innocent civilians. So part of it is that kind of propaganda. The other part of it is that the New York Times largely dislikes Trump, so they're probably happy to reveal a failed mission of his. But they're not going to say many of the things that I think you and I are going to say, which is what a fucking belligerent, disgusting empire we have here that's breaking international laws left and right. Anyway, how do you like this for some propaganda? A group of Navy SEALs emerged from the ink black ocean on a winter night in early 2019. Oh my God, this writer was hard. This writer was hard when he was writing this.
These are the same people that write the bits on the back of my tea boxes.
Yeah, yes.
In a field of lavender, imagine. Like, what? What are you're talking about killing people.
And crept to a rocky shore in North Korea. They were on a top secret mission, so complex and consequential that everything had to go exactly right. The objective was to plant an electronic device that would let the U.S. intercept the communications of North Korea's reclusive leader, Kim Jong-un, amid high-level nuclear talks with President Trump. The mission had the potential to provide the U.S. with a stream of valuable intelligence. Also had the potential to end us all in nuclear war that just kills half the planet. I mean, who knows how North Korea, with nuclear weapons, responds to the U.S. having a nuclear sub off its shore and sending SEAL Team 6 onto its land. Like, how do you think they're going to respond? Who knows? Maybe they fire at the sub. Maybe they fire on U.S. positions.
Well, how did they respond? Because obviously they found out about this.
Well, I'll get to that. But, okay. They say, but it meant putting commandos on North Korean soil, a move that, if detected, not only could sink negotiations, but could lead to a hostage crisis or escalating conflict with a nuclear-armed foe. It was so risky that it required the president's direct approval, as if that matters. I mean, let's go to the most unhinged guy in the room. And the SEALs rehearsed for months, and when they reached what they thought was a deserted shore that night, wearing black wetsuits and night vision goggles.
Dude,
the mission swiftly unraveled.
I think this guy does the commenting at New York Fashion Week, wearing black wetsuits with accompanying boots. The eau de cologne is Armani. Like, what is going on? Who the fuck cares? You know what this reminds me? This reminds me of Marissa Tomei in My Cousin Vinny, where he asks where Joe Pesci's like, what kind of pants should I wear while hunting? And then she goes through this whole beautiful monologue. And then at the end, she's like, would you give a fuck what kind of pants the piece of shit who shot you was wearing? Like, do you give a shit what color the wetsuits that these pieces of shit were wearing?
This is military propaganda. They're trying to make you want to be these guys. And of course, that means you're wearing night vision goggles. It's awesome. So rad.
Oh my God. The person who wrote this needs to watch Archer, because
they also need to get laid, I feel like. A North Korean boat appeared out of the dark. Flashlights from the bow of the boat swept over the water. Fearing that they'd been is this what you would do? Fearing that they'd been spotted, the SEALs killed everyone. Within seconds, everyone on the North Korean boat was dead.
I mean, this is Lee, this is going back to the US roots. You know, like the Judah Friedlander joke. I'm gonna fuck up the joke. Do you want to tell the joke? Because I'm gonna fuck it up.
I feel like this episode is becoming too many reference of jokes that we haven't actually given them the context for, and we're just.
I'm sorry. It's a great joke. Anyway, it's not important, but this is going back to U.S. roots, where you just kill everyone. It doesn't matter, regardless. You just shoot.
Yeah.
This is what the U.S. does. You don't even ask questions later because you're not interested in questions or their answers.
The 2019 operation has never been publicly acknowledged or even hinted at by the U.S. or North Korea. The Trump administration did not notify key members of Congress for the who oversee intelligence operations before or after the mission.
Can we stop calling them intelligence missions, by the way?
Yeah, intelligence, anything. The lack of notifications may have violated the law. Of course it violated the law, but he didn't give a shit.
Well, I also like how the New York Times says may have.
Well,
may have?
And the fact that they're acting like that's the part that violated the law. How about violating international law? How about invading a sovereign country? How about murdering innocent civilians for no fucking reasons? How about all of that violating law? Jesus Christ. I don't know which is sicker, the New York Times coverage of this or the actual deed itself. But so what ended up happening is North Korea, the following day, the U.S. watched on satellite as North Korea went all over the place trying to figure out what had happened. It says in the article that the SEALs likely, after murdering the 3 people on board, the 3 fishermen, then like cut their bodies open to make sure their bodies would sink.
What?
Because you float if you're not chopped open.
Is this common knowledge?
I didn't know it, but
Okay, because you're saying it like you knew
It
knew
was in the
which is, like,
article.
really, really concerning.
it's called a
and
reading.
it makes me want to sit
It's-
further over here.
Okay, it's called a reading. I read.
Yeah, but you said it like you had been holding that information for years.
I've never held that information.
Okay.
But I did some training in college for cutting people open.
Cutting people
Cutting
open.
people open.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, so North Korea likely found out these fishermen were dead. I don't know if they ever found the bodies or not, but whether they did or not, they probably had. It seems they had no idea who did it because Kim Jong-un goes along with the negotiations the following weeks. The negotiations flop, but that was because of Bolton and Pompeo and others, not necessarily because of this. He may have thought that it was South Koreans. He may have thought, I guess, if you don't find the bodies, you could think that a couple of fishermen get in a fight and kill each other. I don't know.
So they still not found the bodies? Is that what we're saying?
Well, if bodies sink to the bottom, you only have a few days before they get gobbled up, I think.
Okay.
I know that as well. Eleanor scoots out of screen.
I'm getting more and more uncomfortable where this.
The plan called for the Navy to sneak a nuclear. So it's just the more you read about it, the more horrifying it is. This is a nuclear-powered submarine the size of 2 football fields into the waters off North Korea. So I don't know how they could be guaranteed that North Korea wouldn't see a giant submarine off their coast. But anyway, they then deploy a smaller team of SEALs in mini subs that are the size of killer whales. So you have 2 teams in tiny subs out of this massive sub. They then move silently toward the shore where the SEALs then, I guess, swim onto the shore. Anyway, after all this training and everything, this is what the mini sub looks like. After all that training and everything, it flops within minutes. They go to shore, they're taking off their wetsuits. They see a fisherman with lights on, but they don't know it's a fisherman. They think it could be a patrol. So they figure, well, I guess we'll just kill him and leave. And
I
so
mean,
that's what they
either
do.
way, it doesn't matter who it is. You're still invading a country. So it doesn't matter
course.
who it is. Yeah. It could have been fucking Rambo. Does not matter.
The aborted SEAL mission prompted a series of military reviews during Mr. Trump's first term. They found that the killing of civilians was, wait for it, justified under the rules of engagement. The civilians were not in rules of engagement. They weren't doing anything. And this is not even a country that you're really at war with. Sure, we never actually
at war with the whole world.
Sure, we never actually signed a peace agreement, so technically we're still at war with North Korea, but we're not really at war with North Korea. And you're just killing civilians off their coast. They found that the killing was justified, and that the mission was undone by a collision of unfortunate occurrences that could not have been foreseen or avoided. Maybe don't do this shit. Maybe don't invade other countries, you fucking sick fucks. The Trump administration never told leaders or key committees in Congress that oversee military and intelligence activities about the operation, which may have violated federal law.
I like this may have.
And then they, at least to the New York Times credit, they do mention some of the other catastrophes that the U.S. has had. They're talking specifically about SEAL Team 6. Among some in the military who have worked with them, the SEALs have a reputation for devising overly bold and complex missions that go badly.
Overly bold and that's such a nice way of putting that.
Teams, catastrophic shit shows would be a better way. Team 6's debut mission, which was part of the U.S. invasion of Grenada in 1983, is a case in point. The plan was to parachute into the sea, race to the coast in speedboats, and plant beacons to guide assault forces to the island's airport. But the SEALs' plane took off late. They jumped at night, landed in stormy conditions, weighed down by heavy gear. 4 of them drowned, and the rest swamped their boats.
Swamped their boats?
Meaning the boats basically sank. They're still on the top of the water, but they can't.
Okay.
They can't keep moving. See, knew that too. Since then, SEALs, I do a lot of training on how to kill people at sea. SEALs have mounted other complex and daring missions that have, I love the term unraveled. That, to me, that's the best propaganda of the whole thing. unraveled.
As if they were raveled.
As if a catastrophic shit show is just like, it unraveled a little bit. It was a little, had a thing and it didn't go quite that well. In Panama, Afghanistan, Yemen, and Somalia, during a rescue mission in Afghanistan in 2010, they accidentally killed a hostage they were trying to rescue. Well, they accidentally killed him with a grenade. You've done that. Right?
Okay, maybe you have. This is getting really uncomfortable. Guys, when I wash up on the shore somewhere with, cut open or whatever with the SEAL Team 6 grenade in my, ear. Just saying.
I think we have some commenters asking you to blink if you need help.
Oh, shit. What if I don't need help and I have to keep my eyes open like Clockwork Orange the entire rest of the hour?
You just have to Nancy Pelosi it. And keep your eyes wide open.
Oh, I thought that.
She never blinks, does she? It's just like.
I thought it was Zuckerberg that never blinks.
Oh, it's all of them.
Oh,
They're all sociopaths.
Okay.
Some of them don't have pupils like.
Yeah, that's true.
Like Anthony Blinken.
His name is
Blinken. A few days after taking office in 2017,
leaving on a high note,
Trump skipped over much of the established deliberative process to greenlight a Team 6 raid on a village in Yemen. So he skipped the whole thing where you decide whether this is a good idea. That mission left 30 villagers and a SEAL dead and destroyed $75 million stealth aircraft. Only 30 villagers murdered.
And a SEAL, apparently.
Can you believe the U.S. does so much horrific shit that this stuff barely makes newspapers? Like, I don't even remember that one that killed 30 villagers. Was that covered? Like, it just goes to, this is all testament to how ridiculously horrific and unhinged the U.S. empire is.
Well, and also how adaptable we are as humans. I remember the first time hearing about some of the war crimes that happened in Iraq. People were crying at this was back in 2004, 2005. People were crying at protests. People were just remarkably floored and affected by hearing about these war crimes that their country was doing. And now it's this is just kind of the daily slog. And I don't really know anybody that gets affected that way anymore. And it's not their fault that they don't get affected that way. It just shows the adaptability to these kind of horrors that, just comes with being children of empire.
Do you think it's because the number of horrors has increased, or is it because, I know you've done a good segment recently on we have less empathy because we don't stay on any topic for more than 0.3 seconds. So how can you have empathy for something you don't really take in?
I think it's both. I think for folks wondering, Lee's referencing an interview that I did with a psychiatrist, Dr. Sumaya Mushtaq, on Project Censored. You can find it wherever you listen to podcasts or on projectcensored.org. And she was talking about the fact that empathy is not just something you're born with the ability to have empathy, but it's really a practice, and it requires paying attention, because in order to sit with somebody and hear their story and actually respond to it as a human being, it requires attention. And we don't have fucking attention spans anymore, right? And so this issue of empathy and the loss of empathy on a global scale, which I don't think anybody would argue at this point, is really indicative of how we live our lives in this kind of constant,
I thought you were agreeing with yourself.
Yeah. Eleanor, you're so right. No, in this constant barrage of really not even information, but infotainment, right? The fact that back in the day, people had perhaps a newspaper that they would read, but that was their information for the day. Now we take in the equivalent of, 50 newspapers worth of information in a day, just doom scrolling. Where do you put that? What happens to that? And how does that then affect your ability to interact with people on a human basis, on a face-to-face basis, and actually practice empathy, which requires attention spans? So I think it's that. I also think it's just the fact that we live in, we can't do anything about the fact that we live in the US or that we were born here or whatever. And so, okay, I have to go through the basics of my day, like feeding myself, clothing myself and all of this stuff. If I were to stop what I'm doing every time the US commits a war crime, I would literally never put on my socks. So it's like,
we'd starve to death too. That's fine.
right. So it's like it is this really grotesque need to go through the daily movements. And also while recognizing that the US is there is not one single second of the day where the US does not commit war crimes, either internationally or indeed domestically.
And either by direct bullets, like in this case, or via sanctions, which kill over 500,000 a year. So in all of these ways, we are committing crimes every fucking day. And I just want to take 1 second to say also, and I know, who cares about a few innocent civilians, but can you imagine what it's like to be the families of those? I'm assuming those were the fathers of 3 families in North Korea, probably, or maybe a father and son. But the wife and kids or wives or whatever have no idea what happened to these guys. They went out fishing at 6 a.m. Their boat is found. Maybe their bodies are found. Maybe no bodies are found. And that's just their life from then on out. Because Donald Trump got a wild hair up his ass and said, sure, send in SEAL Team 6 in the middle of the night and put a listening device on Kim Jong. It's
kind of like the thing in Venezuela. If you look at that video, it looks like a regular boat that I'd see like on the lake outside where my mom lives in Sweden. And it's just
you're talking about the one
blown up.
Well, we should give the background of this.
I know we're going to, but my point was that before we get into the details of this, that this is just a random ass horrific idea that the US knows it has the power to do, but also perhaps more importantly, lacks any accountability, because no one on the planet is going to go up against the US and say, excuse me, what the fuck was this? And when you have genocidal or homicidal intent and nobody will hold you accountable, this is what happens.
So I talked about this yesterday on Due Dissidents, but Trump says 11 were killed in a U.S. strike on a drug-carrying vessel from Venezuela. And just 2 quick notes, although we could dig into this for a half an hour. But A, if it were, who knows whether it was actually carrying drugs. They may just say that so that they can have some propaganda wins. But let's say it was. Let's say there was drugs on board. You still can't murder all 11 people on board because they have drugs.
And especially and not in a way that would potentially prompt another country to go to war with you because you just randomly killed some of their citizens off their coast. Like, that is just...
Well, I think because the U.S. knows that they could eviscerate Venezuela's military if we actually used the big bombs. I think the U.S. is probably hoping to prompt some sort of attack by Venezuela that they can then use as a casus belli, as the term is. But yeah, and there's a lot of, we don't need to go through all of it again, but like 5% of the drugs that come from Colombia, almost all of these come from Colombia, not Venezuela. 5% go through Venezuela. The 95% come from Colombia, go around Venezuela in the waters, and come to the United States or other countries. But
and Venezuela also, I interviewed Leo Flores, who's the co-founder of the Venezuela Solidarity Network. I interviewed him on Project Censored, and he talked about...
Okay, could you please stop seeing other podcasts? You're making me jealous.
He talked about this, the 5%, and the fact that Venezuela seizes about half of that. And he also pointed out that it is absolutely ludicrous to suggest that with the largest surveillance network in the world, you wouldn't know where the drugs are and who's shuttling them, who's trafficking them. And the idea that the president of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro, is somehow involved in drug trafficking. I mean, this is some shit that, like, it is the kind of stuff that you wouldn't even see in like a satirical comedy about drug trafficking. It's like,
Right.
It's so absurd. And the US is well aware of this, but as I spoke with Leo about, this is something that the US has done continuously, not just with Venezuela, but all over the place. The drugs are a very useful cover story because we've created this mentality, this paradigm in the United States that drugs are not a health problem. They are a personal failure. People who sell drugs are not just misguided or desperate. They're fucking evil and they have to be eradicated. So really, with that paradigm, it's much easier to use drugs as a cover story to invade, to demonize and therefore kill or otherwise oppress people. It's a very convenient cover story. And so that's what's been done to Venezuela, not just recently, but like going back like 30 years. So again, this is also why history is important and contextualizing these things is important, because then you're like, yeah, I've seen this show before. This is bullshit.
Furthermore, the propaganda of like drug dealers are the most evil people on the planet, not big pharma drug dealers, but a very specific kind of drug dealers are the most evil people on the planet, considering the end process of a drug deal involves someone, the vast majority of the time, an adult, willingly purchasing the thing. So it's like, like someone is willingly partaking in this at some point. But of course, the U.S. doesn't actually give a fuck about drugs. It's all a show, like you just said, to achieve other aims. And if they actually cared about drugs, then they would have done something about the opioid epidemic years before they actually did, when it was killing hundreds of thousands of people. But that wasn't useful for outside, foreign propaganda against other countries. It was instead corporate America, the Purdue Pharma, it was the Sackler family that was doing that. So it wasn't useful. Instead, it was useful to enrich the richest in the world, the richest people in the world. So let's keep going. It just shows how little they actually care about the harm of drugs. Okay, so what would you like to talk about next? Oh, I guess we should do this one because it kind of relates to the Venezuela story. Trump sending our military around the world in various ways. And I think all of it is a little bit to distract from Jeffrey Epstein. Like, he's sending the military literally to U.S. cities because he wants you to stop talking about Epstein. He's sending the military to your house, like to knock on your door and being like, stop talking about Epstein, please.
Yeah, so Trump is sending 10 stealth fighter planes to Puerto Rico, supposedly to combat drug cartels. And
how stealth are they if you tell people you're sending them?
I don't know. So it basically says that this comes after the bombing or striking that boat. The sources, speaking on condition of anonymity, said the 10 fighter jets are being sent to conduct operations against designated narco-terrorist organizations.
Narco-terrorist isn't a thing, just so you know.
Also,
you can be a narco. Terrorist doesn't mean anything. It's just meant to sound scarier.
Also, designated is another one of those critical media literacy words. Designated by who? Because if it's the U.S. designating them and then fighting them, methinks this rings a bit hollow, considering the fact that this is exactly what the U.S. did in the Middle East. Well, we got to fight terrorists. Oh, I know. We'll create them, and then we'll have a never-ending supply of terrorists, which is exactly what the U.S. did. So this, I have to create folk devil to fight folk devil, is what the U.S. does and has done. I mean, not just in the Middle East, everywhere, including here at home, of course.
Eleanor has an awesome song called Folk Devils, if you want to look it up.
7 U.S. warships and 1 nuclear-powered fast attack submarine. I don't even know what this means, but can I just point out that when they put shit like that in there, they are just, it's so masturbatory. Like, this is, like...
This is Reuters doing more propaganda, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So awesome. The stealth fighter super duper jet with the bomby bombs. Look at this go. Go so fast.
Exactly.
That's exactly what they sound like.
Carrying more than 4,500 sailors and Marines and carrying out amphibious training, which sounds way cooler.
He's like, oh, it's carrying so much semen. Oh my God. Well, seriously, it says it. It's in there.
Okay.
It's in the
All
Reuters
right.
article. Lots of semen.
Okay.
I'm not done.
I know you're not. I am. Reuters has said that Reuters does point out U.S. officials have not said what legal justification was used for Tuesday's strike on the boat or what drugs were on board.
Trump is like, what's a legal justification? I don't understand what you're saying. What are the words coming out of your face? Legal justification?
Well, again, and this goes back to my point about accountability. If you don't need, if no one's ever going to hold you accountable for doing this shit, why would you come up with any reason? It's enough for Trump to just say drugs bad, okay? Like South Park. It's like it's enough to just say that, and then most of corporate media will just be like, "Yeah, well, drugs are bad, so over to you, Bob." Like it's just they don't care.
You know what's even scarier? Narco terrorists.
Yes,
Got the word terrorist right there in it.
and narco, which is scary.
Narco's kind of fun though.
Like narcotics are fun.
That's true too, but I feel like we love movies about narcos. Favorite. Yeah, Americans.
Okay, you do. I don't. You
Mm.
love watching the, documentary about some horrible shit and
You're just watching murder mysteries all day long. Still people getting killed.
I do.
It's a lot of murder.
Most of the time I read. I every now and then
About murder.
Also, there's a great book about surgery
Yeah.
in the 1800s.
This is what she reads.
That's gooey.
About how to cut someone open and put extra pus in there.
Fun fact. Lee literally won't let me tell him what I'm reading anymore because it's too gross.
Nope.
But fun fact. Back in the day, before germ theory, made its way into so-called
Did you watch the
Western-
hearing in front of Congress? We're done with that shit.
Yeah,
We've
totally.
moved past germ theory. It
What's-
doesn't exist anymore.
What's funny is that germ theory did exist in other cultures before the West found it out, but we don't learn that. We're like, globally, germ theory didn't exist. And like over here, China and the Arab world are like, actually, it did.
They're like, we had an idea.
Yeah, we fucking knew. But so basically, before that shit made its way into the little brain bowls of the so-called Western world, they thought that pus was what healed wounds. So if you were in the hospital and you did not have pus on your wound, i.e. it was doing okay, they would scrape pus from somebody else's wound and put it on yours like a dollop of whipped cream.
See, please note, she acted like I sounded insane earlier. Right now, who should be scooting their chair out of scene? This is the most excited she's ever sounded on this show.
This is crazy. It's fun to read. Okay. Over to you, Bob.
Let's get to some possible good news. It seems like
it depends.
the obscure UN mechanism that could actually have some concrete action on Gaza.
If the UN grew a spine. But this is interesting.
That's not what it said in the title.
It did not. This is why I'm not the editor of an outlet, because I would just put snarky ass shit all over the place. So I don't know how to say this man's last name. Can you help me out here?
Where is it?
Craig Mockaber. Where the hell? He's a former UN official.
Yeah, I'd go Mokaber.
Mokaber?
I have no idea.
Okay. Sorry. This obviously means that I have not heard this interview.
Yeah.
I've just read it.
How about Macabre? Oi!
So you're just deciding.
Craig Macabre!
You're deciding he's Scottish, I guess.
Should he not be? Let's.
I don't know. I like your gusto.
Oh, see? Flower in the Dark says I got it right. Macabre!
But does it have to be at that volume?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Anyway, he's a former
Scots only yell.
He's a former UN official, and in this interview with Democracy Now, he points out. So here, the first thing I'll say is that I feel like most people, and I'm not talking about you and I, most people in the UN don't know how the UN works, which is really not great. Also, really. It really adds to the dumb shittery that comes out of
And
the
is
UN.
Is this because that many people in the UN don't care, or is it because kind of like the representative for the US, they're just told to vote. They don't actually have to read things. They just like they just get an email that says vote no on Palestinian statehood or
Well, yeah, I think it's just, well, I mean, most people vote yes for Palestinian statehood, but they're not aware.
well, no, I meant American, the American rep.
Well, the American rep, they're just, puppets on a string. But I don't think they even have a mind of their own. But because if they did, then it's just pure evil. So I prefer to think that they don't have one. No, but I think a lot of people aren't aware of the tools that exist in the UN Charter, and so that's McIver's point here. See how I did that? I just lowered
Travers
the
says he
volume.
is a Scotsman. Haha.
See, okay, but see how I just said McIver without yelling it? That's the thing you can do.
That didn't sound right. I think you mispronounced it.
Okay.
I think it's McIver.
Oh my god! If you do that one more time, I'm pouring my water on your head. Okay.
That was how loud you got when you talked about bus.
Dude, it's fascinating and disgusting. Okay. Kind of like the United States. Basically this is it sounds kind of like something from a kid's story time, but it's called Uniting for Peace. And it allows the member states of the UN, 193, in the General Assembly to circumvent a US veto, to adopt a concrete action, as it did, for example, in 1956. Again, this is why Auntie Eleanor will always say that history is important.
If 193 of them vote together.
No, I'm not done yet.
Oh.
It allows all member states, which is 193.
Oh, okay.
In 1956, it mandated the UN emergency force to deploy to the Sinai in the middle of the Suez crisis against the wishes of 2 Security Council members, the UK and France, and against the wishes of Israel. It could do the same thing now in September. In September, I think it's like 27, that the UN is meeting in New York. This is also why the US has revoked all visas for Palestinians, because they don't want the Palestinians to get up at the UN and be like, hey, this is what's happening. As if people in the UN don't already know, though. But it's a further silencing of Palestinian voices. So it could do that now by mandating a UN protection force for the people in Gaza and more broadly in Palestine that is specifically mandated to protect civilians, to ensure the delivery of humanitarian aid, i.e. via UNRWA, to preserve evidence of Israeli war crimes, and to begin the process of reconstruction. Most importantly, to change the incentive structure for Israel and its co-conspirators in the genocide that's happening in Palestine. Other measures could be adopted in such a resolution, for example, denying the credentials of Israel in the UN General Assembly, as was done with apartheid South Africa, which, as pointed out by Mandela's grandson, had a less severe form of apartheid than Israel. Establishing a criminal tribunal to hold Israeli perpetrators to account, reactivating anti-apartheid mechanisms to deal with Israeli apartheid. So McIver is basically pointing out there's a shit ton that can be done. And
because for those who don't know, the General Assembly has generally been just, there's no teeth at all. No matter what they vote. They voted for Palestinian statehood again and again and again. It doesn't make a difference.
And here's the thing.
Because they're not the Security Council.
It requires 2/3 majority. So, and it's quite clear based on previous votes where the US and Israel are the only ones voting against it, that you would pretty easily get that 2/3 majority. So it requires 2/3 majority to activate this, is McIver's point. So there, he says that there is a lot of effort right now ahead of this UN meeting in September to do this basic, smallest modicum of showing that you have a soul. And basically the idea is that the US would have no power to veto this because it is a workaround that exists inside the UN rules. So this is, and actually in September is when it's supposedly also the deadline for Israel to respond to the court's ruling that apartheid, that Israel's an apartheid state and has no right to occupy Palestine. So it's apparently the deadline of that decision that was made more than a year ago. And so really, if the UN fails to activate this, then what the hell was that former ruling even for? So, yeah, the Security Council cannot block this either. The United States cannot block it. It only requires a 2/3 majority of the member states. Now, he says
what could obstruct it.
He points out the things that could obstruct it. That the U.S. could and has and would use every kind of, as he put it, carrot and sticks in particular, threats against delegations. I mean, the U.S. already said that it would invade The Hague, so it's like this is not anything unheard of. It would threaten delegations with developing economies that rely upon foreign aid, even though foreign aid has been effectively slashed. So this could, he says that the United States could still try and derail this, but his point is that there is the leverage really does lie in the UN. And if the UN decides to be the bitch of the United States, and it has so far, so it remains to be seen whether that will play out in September. Again, this is in the September 23rd. And he also points out, which another report came out in the Middle East Eye today that shows that France has been making bank selling military weaponry to Israel, even though Macron.
This one?
No, that's something separate. This is just something I read on my way down here. That even though Macron said he recognizes a Palestinian state, he's still making bank off of selling military weaponry to Israel. So McIver makes this point too, that it doesn't matter. The UN could say tomorrow, we recognize a Palestinian state, welcome to the UN Palestine. Wouldn't change a goddamn thing. So this is smoke and mirrors. So don't be fooled by how many people are like, oh, we recognize a Palestinian state. That doesn't mean anything. It does not stop the genocide at all. Right. So it's really important to not let these kind of performative political maneuvers distract from the fact that people like Macron, people like the UN are still bowing to the will of Israel and the United States.
Yeah, that's all good points.
Thanks.
Yeah, I mean, this really has, like, unintentionally, Israel's genocide has proven how inept international law is. Mm-hmm. It's just utterly, I mean, if you can't stop a full frontal genocide that's being live streamed, then what is your purpose? It feels like the UN was kind of created to stop these kind of things.
But from who? So that's the other thing that I've talked about before on Project Censored, and I think we've talked about it here too. The UN, the ICJ, these institutions were created by like colonialist powers. I would say former,
by
but they're
colonialists
not.
For colonialists.
Exactly. So if you look at the ICJ website and the people that are wanted by the International Court of Justice, most of them are African. And when I say most, I mean like 90%.
It's like over 90%. They don't actually prosecute white people.
So it's like, I mean, you're looking at international law falling apart, but it was never really constructed to address the crimes of imperialist and colonialist nations.
But that's also law in general was built for the ruling elite. So,
well, yeah, in this country, yes.
Okay, while we're on the topic of Israel, let's get to the ships carrying the fuel and arms to Israel.
So I would recommend that folks check out noharborforgenocide.com. That's spelled harbor as the Brits do it with a U. Noharborforgenocide.com.
UHARBOR.
No, HARBOUR for genocide.com / block list. And here it's amazing the amount of research that went into this. It is a list of ships that carry fuel and arms to Israel. And this was reported by Middle East Eye because they were one of the first people to see it. And it's a list of 36 ships that have consistently supplied arms and fuel to Israel during this genocide. And it's the usual suspects like Maersk, which has an ongoing campaign against it called Mask Off Maersk.
Wasn't Maersk the one that ran in and knocked over our bridge here? The Francis Scott Key bridge.
I mean, you make it sound like they just went boop.
It
And,
is-
I mean,
boop.
yeah,
I mean, that's how bad our infrastructure is. All you have to do is
Yes.
go boop.
that's
And
true.
then shit collapses on our heads.
What a metaphor. So these are ships that really go worldwide. So for instance, there are a couple of ships that are US flagged oil tankers that supply jet fuel and petrochemicals critical to Israeli military operations. They're managed by the US based Overseas Shipholding Group. And this is jet fuel that's then used by F-16 and F-35 aircraft that bomb Gaza on a daily basis. So these are like very direct, like without these ships, Israel could not continue. Like when we talk about the US sending weapons, this is how they send weapons. It's not via UPS. So this is also important to note because of the power of dock workers.
Yeah.
So in July, Greek dock workers at the port of Piraeus said that they would refuse to unload a ship containing military-grade steel to Israel when it arrived in Greece. Similar acts of resistance have taken place at ports across Europe, including Marseille and Genoa. Italian dock workers have said that they do not want to be complicit in the genocide. And Genoese dock workers this week threatened to shut down all of Europe and block all shipments to Israel if communication with the latest aid flotilla bound for Gaza was lost. So that's awesome. And also, if you look at a map, there's not a lot of, because Gaza is right, like Palestine is right on the Mediterranean. And if you look at the Mediterranean, there's only so many ways to get there, right? And so this is critical. And it's also critical that these dock workers are so, organized and are aware of which ships are carrying what. And
hold on, you mean workers together have power?
I know, it's weird.
Please explain.
So this is really phenomenal. And I think it's also really important then that we highlight the importance of organizing workers like in our workplaces about not just Gaza, but just things in general, right? Because we're all workers of some sort because capitalism. So the importance of radicalizing and engaging our workplaces to fight for justice, whether that be for healthcare or indeed to stop a genocide.
Yeah.
But
they
yeah,
have power when they all unite and they do things. It's crazy.
I know. But check out No Harbor for Genocide and also Mask Off Maersk, of course. They do great work.
But do remember that if you are a worker anywhere, your true hatred should be towards immigrants, okay? Do not work together towards the actual things that actually are oppressing you. Instead, just hate immigrants because that'll fix things.
God, I hope people understand sarcasm.
You're actually not. We have a test before you show up for the show.
That's
You're
good.
not allowed in.
That's good.
To the elite room unless you understand sarcasm.
Can we go to the Venice Film Festival really quick? Because I want to just comment on something really quickly.
I talked about this for a while yesterday on Due Dissidence, but that is not our podcast. So.
Well, and the only thing I really want to say about this is, I love the Middle East Eye. I do have a problem with the way that this is covered. Simply because...
Well, let's tell what it is first.
Okay, so the headline is Venice Film Festival. Normally apolitical event struggles to shake the specter of Gaza.
And that's, for those of you listening to the podcast, normally and an apolitical event, not normally a political event. It's a, yeah, okay.
English is dumb.
Normally an apolitical event. Okay.
So the Venice Film Festival, this goes back to my whole like kvetching about nothing's apolitical. The Venice Film Festival was started by Mussolini.
Really?
To promote.
Good for him.
To promote, guess what? Fascistic.
To promote Gaza, oddly
Exactly.
enough. Very weird. Yeah.
Fascistic nationalist art, quote, cinema.
And have they moved away from that?
I mean, I don't know how many nationalistic films get played, but so they're like, it is not and has not been an apolitical event.
So I guess it had a stretch of being more apolitical than at least that.
But this also goes again to my point. There's no such thing as apolitical. So again, I love the Middle East Eye. I love their work, but this headline is misleading and honestly incorrect.
I guess it's like more. This year has been more in your face political.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And I think that that's very good. And it also highlights another point that I wanted to make, which is art and art in general, but kind of the larger umbrella of culture has a very powerful mandate. I'm not going to say opportunity. I'm going to say mandate to shift our understanding of any topic, but also Palestine, and move towards actual justice. So I think that it's really important that, yeah, I mean, and the
It
visual,
might be why I'm more suppressed than
yes,
90% of commentators on YouTube.
and it's why Israel doesn't just target journalists; it targets poets.
Yep.
It targets artists.
And a poet was the one who created or started the March of Return, the right to Return March.
So I think that it's important to recognize the power there. And yes, somebody noted it was a 23-minute standing ovation for the film about Hind Rajab.
The Hind Rajab film,
Yeah,
which is gut-wrenching.
And I think that that's incredibly powerful, and I'm so glad that that film was made and shared and uplifted at Venice, because again, I think there is that mandate. But let's not forget that these events are never apolitical, and this kind of idea that we should keep politics out of film festivals or we should keep politics out of music, it's like, shut the fuck up, because everything in life is political. Okay, absolutely everything. So the idea that we should keep it out of fill in the blank is just to suggest that certain portions of our population should be ignorant, namely artists. And the reason that they want artists to be ignorant of politics is because artists have a lot of power when it comes to shifting the Overton window.
And I also believe that, like, for the artists that don't say anything, that's kind of that's very incredibly political stance. It's like the fact that, Taylor Swift or who was the other one, Selena Gomez, like, have said nothing about Gaza or almost nothing about Gaza. That is a very political act.
Yeah, absolutely. It is a passive acceptance of the status quo. So I just wanted to highlight that, and also, tell folks, if you haven't heard of the film, it definitely seems like a very important one.
Yeah, very, very powerful film. We played 3 minutes of it yesterday, and yeah, I couldn't really handle it. But, I wanted to. I put this in the partially because I want to cover it, partially because it's on the thumbnail, so I feel like we should talk about it.
It's on the thumbnail.
Well, you're not involved in the thumbnail making because I don't think you want to be. But...
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah, this is a good one.
Venice and Vienna are the theme of the show. Vienna's model shows that the government really can guarantee housing for all. What? It's like every time they do a new test somewhere, they say, oh, it turns out housing for all works and actually saves the state or the nation or whatever money, and everyone benefits. And then they ignore it for a couple of years, and then they go, hey, there was a test for housing for all, and it turned out it benefits everybody.
It turns out that's a thing you could do.
Turns out it totally works.
So this is a piece by Truth Out, and basically the basic nuts and bolts is that in Vienna, that's the Austrian capital, by the way, there is a thriving, popular, state-led social housing model which leads the globe in providing high-quality, affordable developments to a large segment of the population. And I was kind of shocked to know that, because I assumed that what led the globe in providing high quality, affordable developments was like China or something. Turns out, with a pragmatic yet forward-thinking design, particularly in green energy future-proofing, the Vienna model offers a knowledge base born of decades of experience that in a just world would be tapped
Where is
to
that?
help. I don't know. I lost it somewhere. To help enact comparable proposals in the US. So hundreds of thousands of people in Vienna are comfortably housed by state-owned buildings. 5,000 new affordable units are added per year. Compare that to here with like how many luxury apartments are built every year compared to like actual state-owned public housing. I mean, it's just ridiculous. So this is part of a legacy that goes back a long ways. From 1919 to 1934, the legacy of Red Vienna, which is a period of leftist governance, that laid the groundwork of building 64,000 units of municipally owned housing, funded by progressive taxes on property and on luxury goods. Holy shit, what a concept. Vienna has the lowest rent of any major city in Western Europe. It's roughly 3 times cheaper than London, and its income distribution is far more equitable than New York City.
I wonder if they have a policy in Vienna where the rich can just buy up all the apartments and then jack up the rent.
No,
I
they
wonder
do
if
not.
that's a thing.
They are not allowed to do that. And there's a lot of like, I recommend that folks check out this article on Truth Out because there's a lot of, he goes really deep into like how this
Intricacies.
works. And I'm not going to share that here because that doesn't make for a very dynamic podcast, me reading you a effing article.
I could dance next to you while you do it.
Would we call that dancing? Okay. So basically, this is, he also points out that this is not just like for lower income people. This is mixed income housing, and people who oftentimes have more money still want to live in these housing units because guess what? They're nice housing units. Like if you Google pictures like Vienna public housing, they look gorgeous. These are like really nice apartments.
It's like the public school lunches in Denmark. They're like awesome.
Sweden had pretty good public lunches or public school lunches too. I liked mine. Anyway, like lingonberry jam.
You're not, for those who don't know, you're not allowed to say anything positive about Denmark without Eleanor getting a little,
Okay,
getting a little squirrely.
That's not true. That's not true. I will say every day of the week, the Danes are way more fun than Swedes. Swedes are boring as hell in general. Danes are way more fun, but you know, when we're talking about lunches here, I had good lunches. Okay, I had good public school lunches.
But Swedes are faster, taller, better.
That's not true. Also, Mads Mikkelsen, please marry me. Okay.
Who is that again?
Oh my god, gorgeous Danish actor.
Hmm.
I just couldn't let him speak because I think Danish sounds horrible. But anyway, that's a separate issue. Anyway, also Viggo Mortensen. I mean, hello, they're gorgeous. I'm just saying. And really good actors. Sweden has some good actors too. But that's okay.
All right.
So this is mixed income.
What about me? I was in Law and Order SVU. What about this guy?
That's true. Oh, baby Lily. What was the name of the episode again?
Intoxicated.
Okay, look it up, guys. You'll see baby Lily getting thrown up against a car, not like in a sexy way, but like in a aggro toxic masculinity kind of way.
It's a mere 20 years old, that episode.
I love that. Okay. So this is and he makes the point, this is the point that I really wanted to share here before we wrap up. There's a lot that people might think that, oh, well, this sounds like one of those socialist bureaucratic things where there's so much bureaucracy, there's so much red tape. Actually, applying to live in one of these homes is actually super simple. So you don't have to have like a PhD or something, and it's not like a bunch of red tape. It's actually pretty simple to apply. And this completely destroys the idea that state ownership or state-led kills innovation, right? So he points out that I think one of the interesting lessons from Vienna is that it deconstructs the myth in the US that innovation and deregulation go hand in hand. What you have is in Vienna is highly regulated developer competitions with public agencies doing everything from heat pumps to the sewer system. You are getting technological marvels out of a state-supervised, heavily planned system. So, for instance, one of the latest green innovations is the creative repurposing of Viennese buildings' gas heat lines for air conditioning by filling the lines with cold water in the summer. So you don't have to have this Silicon Valley Wild West vibe, like regulations kill ideas. That's not true.
Which is, watch the latest episode of Unredacted tonight. That's the new aim of the Democratic Party, is to gut regulations and quote unquote red tape to give people more affordable housing, as if there's not housing across America that they just don't have access to.
Right. So basically, that Vienna is doing this. It's a thing you can do. And so and I know that you've talked about this too, Lee, that like, it's not that we're lacking ideas. We don't lack information about how
the
to.
answers are out there.
Yeah,
We just
exactly.
Don't use them.
We just don't use them. And so check out that article on Truth Out and I guess weep a little bit.
Thank you, Teresa. Finally, someone standing up for me.
I didn't say Vigo's more gorgeous than Lee. That's silly. I'm just saying he's also gorgeous.
But yes, I've done many segments on how the answers to all these things are out there, but we choose not to use them. Why do we choose not to use them? Because the richest of the rich don't want to use them. They get no benefit at providing really great affordable housing to everyone or housing the homeless. It doesn't enrich the richest. And they've done that. They've given every homeless person an apartment in I believe it was Utah, and they ended 95% of all homelessness. And then what did they do? They got rid of that policy because it was working too well, and it was saving the state money too. But that's a catastrophe because then the richest of the rich can't jack up all the rents as easily, things like that. Anyway. Thank you guys so much for joining us here. Check out all of Eleanor's work at artkillingapathy.com.
And projectcensor.org is where you can check out the show.
And I have a new episode of Unredacted tonight has just come out. You can get the full playlist of Unredacted at leecamp.com/unredacted, free to watch there. And I would love for you to sign up and support this show. We are suppressed. I just found out from the analytics the other day that on an average episode of this show, YouTube alerts 6%. And that might be high. 6% of you all get an alert saying I've gone live or I put out a new video, which that might be a high number even.
I'm kind of surprised they admitted it.
Yeah, I know. I think it's because they have their analytics set up for every creator. But for someone like me who's in some sort of suppression bubble, they don't then think, let's block out all their analytics.
Well, and I guess they also think, well, what can you do about it? So
yeah, there's nothing I can do about it. So they have the analytics there, but it's just like, oh yeah, we alerted 6% of people about your show. And sure enough, whenever an episode actually does well, as opposed to doing abysmally, in the analytics, you can see that, 70% of views came from YouTube advising people to watch, like giving them the option. You may also want to watch, or people search for things similar and they get notified about this.
So y'all have to be the YouTube.
Well, you have to just schedule and show up and watch. Like, you can't wait for this to get forced upon you like most shows.
Yeah, set an alarm and then tell your friends to set an alarm.
All right, but if you want to support the show, join up at leecamp.net or patreon.com/leecamp. And I will see you Monday, 3 p.m. Eastern. I live stream 3 days a week. And you guys rock, and thanks a lot. Keep fighting.